Hi, this is Glenda from Beautiful Soaps by Glenda, and the soap I'm making today it's a collaboration with Jennifer from Jen Spice. The theme for our collaboration is Winter Wonderland, and we are to incorporate either penguins or a snowman. So now I'm probably gonna do a mix of both. I will include a link to her channel in the description box below and also to the video so that you can watch her version of this theme. I've started by measuring the oils and now I'm measuring the fragrance oil. This is going to be candy cane from Make Your Own. On the left at the bottom you can see some of the embeds that I will be using. Now I'm going to measure the lye from my master batch lye water solution. It is a 40% lye to water concentration and it's a dual lye blend, which means it's 95% sodium hydroxide and 5% potassium hydroxide. Potassium hydroxide is usually used for either shaving soaps or liquid soap, and it's known to help promote bubbles. My light water solution it's at 77 degrees Fahrenheit or 25 Celsius, which is room temperature for me. The oils are at 46 Celsius or 115 Fahrenheit. And I'm going to include below a link to the recipe in case you're curious to see what I'm using. It's mostly a blend of olive oil, beef tallow, coconut oil, shea butter, and castor oil. Initially, I like to just stir it for about a minute or two before introducing the stick blender. Once I start using the stick blender, I am trying to reach emulsion phase initially and then trace. After blending this for a while, I reach emulsion phase, which is when the oils and the water have come together and they're not breaking apart. So I decided to split and divide a small portion, which will be the top, and I'm putting it into a container that has titanium dioxide mixed with a little bit of oil in it. And then to the bulk of the mix, I added the fragrance oil and I blended it in. This fragrance has some vanillin and it will cause discoloration, and that's why I'm only using it in the bottom part of the soap. I am now ready to pour this into the mold. I'm using a square 6 inches by 6 inches mold, a silicone mold. Out of this, I'm going to be able to get 4 bars. The fragrance smells very good. It's very minty. However, as you can see with my recipe, it does seem to thicken up the soap batter. So I wouldn't use this for anything that requires intricate swirls with my recipe. Meanwhile though, I'm going to mix the portion that doesn't have fragrance that I separated before, and I'm going to blend it in with the titanium dioxide in the container. Once I'm done with that, I come back to the main soap and I notice that it's thick enough to be textured, which is ideal because I want to make some like hills, not quite mountains, but more like small hills that will later be covered with snow, which is what the white soap will be. So I'm using the spatula to sort of create these shapes on the soap surface. In the center, I want to create a lake, so I am making an indentation, hopefully in an oval or roundish shape. The idea will be that all 4 bars of soap will have a small portion of this water effect in the corner. I'm going to create the water effect with melt and pour, and I thought I would add the white at this point so that the melt and pour will be on top of the white. However, as you can tell, it's still very fluid and the white soap is filling most of the cavity that I made for the lake. So I ended up having to pour it back into the container so that I will still have the empty space, the cavity down there for my lake. And I'm going to add some peacock mica from Nurture Soap, and I'm just going to try to put it at the bottom so that the melting pour that will be on top will have this blue effect or blue color tint. I actually also use turquoise steel mica from Crafter's Choice, and then some silver hollow from North Shore Soap. The silver hollow doesn't come into that container, by the way. I bought the spritz set separately, and then I just moved the label. Now I'm going to take this melting pot to the microwave, and ta-da, it's now ready. And I'm going to start pouring it into the center of the soap. As you can see in the center, it went too deep into it so that it moved some of the blue mica. So now I'm using a spatula so that it will not do that again. It will not break through the surface of the soap. Then I'm spraying some of the penguin embeds with alcohol so that I can put them in the lake as if they're swimming. The first one went in fine, but the second one, as you can see here, I'm having trouble putting it in because the melting pour has hardened some on top. I tried to use my heat gun to see if I could melt it and then insert the embed. However, that didn't seem to be working. I could see it moving overall the whole melting pour soap, but it wasn't quite breaking into that very top layer. So what I did is that I inserted the embed through the side, sort of just to put it in, and then I started adding the white soap to keep creating the scene. At this point, the white soap is still very fluid. However, because I'm only using a small layer of it on top, I'm still able to add the embeds and stick them to the layer underneath. I start with the pine trees and I made them with soap dough. I do have a video on how to make pine trees with soap dough. In case you're interested, I'm gonna link it above. And I also had a video on how to make a snowman. However, the ones that I use in this soap are a much simplified version of that because of the size. The following day they were ready to come out of the mold, so I took them out and cut them. I didn't film the cutting, but I'm going to post some pictures of what they look like next, and also of how I made a snow globe out of one of them. So this is what they look like once they're cut. It is not a very practical soap to use. I intended for this to be mainly decorative. However, if I wanted to ship this or gift it to somebody, I would probably turn it into a snow globe because in that way the embeds will be better protected. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut it into a round shape with a cookie cutter, which I should have done actually before. By this point, the soap has cured over a month. So about 5 weeks actually, and it is harder to cut. However, I was able to get it cut. It didn't come out as round as it was supposed to. It sort of took like an oval shape, but I think it's going to work. Now the soap is soft to touch at this point. I'm only wearing gloves and goggles because I'm about to make another soap, and I decided to do this instead. After cutting the oval shape, I tested it to see if it will fit in the cavity mold that I'm going to use for the snow globe portion. And it somewhat fits. I think I'm going to need to do some adjustments later. You can tell that it's not a good circle, but it's a good starting point. I will be using Crafter's Choice Crystal Clear Soap Base. I melted it and now I'm ready to pour it into the round cavity mold. I'm also adding some silver hollow glitter, and then before adding the cold process soap, I spray it with alcohol to make sure it will stick. I realized I didn't have enough melting pour, so I had to quickly remove it, add more melting pour, and then put it back in. It was a good thing that I had melted more than I thought I would need. A couple hours later, I removed it from the mold and I was happy with how it turned out. I will need to do some trimming, of course, but overall, I like how it looks. I invite you to check out Jen's channel and her video for this collaboration so we can see what she did. Jen's videos are usually very cheerful. She has a very contagious laughter. And she also does a lot of other skincare formulations, not just soap, but a lot of other different products and videos. So I'm going to put her channel below. And thank you for joining me today. I'll see you next week with another winter soap.